Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of I Talk About a Thing, and again, we're talking about Game Builder Garage. But today's video is actually a very special one because, as you can see, I'm actually using my green screen, and that is because we're going to be doing a tier list video of all the games I reviewed. This is actually in kind of celebration of the first anniversary of Game Builder Garage, which is coincidentally the same day that this video is intended to go out on. I don't know, because I'm kind of rushing it today. But yeah, so be prepared for a big video. We're going to be covering 70 games. There was going to be a 71st one that came in from a commenter that I think is watching today's video. I'll pop that up on screen here. I couldn't get the game in, sorry. Game Builder Garage gave me the couldn't find game thing, so yeah, we don't have any new games to feature today, but we're going to be featuring games that I've already featured, so let's get right on into it. Alright, so the first game we're going to be covering is Alone. One thing I've had an issue with is that this is going to be in all alphabetical order, which kind of screwed it up because I was doing it all episode by episode, but everything's saved in alphabetical order, so there we go. So the first game is Alone, which is a really good game from when I originally played this. I believe this will get an instant S tier from me because, yeah, this game is just absolutely beautiful. I won't be really putting the links to it because it would really make the descriptions long, but I'll be putting links in the description to all of the videos I've done on Game Builder Garage, so this way you can go ahead and play them whenever you need to. So the second game on today's thing is Among Us. Now, it's, of course, this was from the first episode, and if you remember, this was about a year ago, so this was when Game Builder Garage, this was back when meme culture was still relatively focused on Among Us. As you can see, this was kind of rushed to kind of be put on there. It's mostly just a retexturization of the original, of the first tutorial game that Game Builder Garage has, so yeah. So I think it gets a good solid D tier where it is. Alright, so fix the tier list a little so we can actually kind of fit all of the stuff in the tiers. And the next game we have is Andromeda Labs. Now, this game, it's okay-ish. I'm going to give it an A tier. It's a pretty good game. I featured it in the last episode of episode 9. Go watch it. I featured it then, and yeah, it's not a bad game. So yeah, A tier, definite. This is an attempt at Beat Saber in Game Builder Garage. I found it pretty okay. The visuals are pretty nice. But I'm going to give it an A tier like I did Andromeda Lab because unfortunately it's a little heavy on the motion controls, and I mean actually it's kind of perfect for motion controls because, you know, Joy-Con colors are actually pretty good analogs of the colors that appear in the game, and even Beat Saber itself. I wonder if Beat Saber is ever going to make a Switch port, even though there's a lot of stuff concerning them and VR and all that. But yeah, unfortunately, when I reviewed it, I was playing with the Pro Controller, so it kind of detracts from it. It's, you know, it's a little simple and all that. And so yeah, as for our next game, this is a bit of a sharp turn. This is an attempt at Mario 64's Bob-omb Battlefield. Unfortunately, when I reviewed this originally, yeah, it wasn't really that great. It mostly focused on just the basics of it. It's kind of if you took Bob-omb Battlefield and put it in Microsoft's new 3D Paint. it's very, it's just mostly the basic concepts, and when I reviewed it, I felt that there could be a lot more done on the side of actually programming in Node on. Um, so, yeah. And the next game on our list is Bowley. Now, this game, I believe I featured in episode 8 or so. I'll be putting up the episode I featured it in somewhere on screen. Probably should have put that there. I'll edit it in post, I guess. But Bully was, it's uses motion controls, which is pretty okay for games like this. Kind of like Wii Sports. There's a few glitches. There's not much of a thing to detect if you have knocked down all the pins, but I think that's pretty respectable considering the fact that yeah, it's a little hard to program in some kind of thing to detect if you have knocked down a pin or not, and you know, if that pin has really been knocked down. I'm gonna kind of reserve the S tier for the really, really, really good games, so it stays in A tier for now. And yeah, the next game on our list is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, this game is a very good original to Game Builder Garage. I believe I featured it like really early, like kind of like late into Game Builder Garage, like I think like episode 3 or 4 or 5, I forget. But I believe it's been out for like about a couple months after release date. So it's a really good game. For Game Builder Garage, it's absolutely beautiful. It comes in 12 parts. You get an entire story. It's a little short, but I mean, for Game Builder Garage, that's pretty long. About a month or so ago, I actually finally sat down and played it in its entirety, kind of on my own terms, off YouTube. Took me about half an hour, 60 minutes. Half an hour to an hour to beat the thing. It's pretty good. So yeah. The next game is, I believe it's called Car Rush. It's a simple little game. You have a car that you have to basically, it's a mini game for 2 players where you just have the blue Joy-Con has its own car and the red Joy-Con has its own car, and you have to collect as many eggs as possible. I'm going to have to B tier that. I'm going to have to put it either in the B or C tier because it's okay. It's a good little multiplayer party game, kind of as something that, like, I could see someone having that as like a game that they could put up with their friends, like, you know, if I had a friend over, you know, you could just play that with them if they aren't, you know, going into other games like Smash Bros. And all that, so it's not bad. Next game is City Surfers, which is a recreation, I'm going to say kind of like a knockoff of Subway Surfers. It's not bad. The graphics are a little basic, but at least everything's fitting for Game Builder Garage. I'm probably going to have to B tier this one also. It's very simple, very easy to beat. And yeah, so our next game is Cookie Clicker. Now this one is a little basic. About a few days ago I actually started also playing into the real Cookie Clicker. If you haven't played it, it's actually pretty good. It's a web browser game. It's been around since like 2013. Yeah, and this is a good enough knockoff for Game Builder Garage. It doesn't have all of the power-ups or upgrades. It's one thing I noticed. It's a little basic, but it's there. I'm probably gonna put this in C tier because there's not much to really do, and mostly you're mostly just gonna click and yeah, do the thing. Now this next game is absolutely legendary. I featured it, I think, on episode 9, and that is Cosmo the Cat. It's a platformer game. Go play it. It's actually pretty good. I'm gonna leave it there. If you want more justification for the reviews, I'm gonna kind of keep it quite brief in today's video. There's all of the, like I said, all of the videos I've made on this, with more concrete reviews with actual things on it. And this next game is called Crazy Lego Man, also featured in, I think, the latest episode of this series. Now, this game is, it's pretty good. I mean, it messes with ragdoll physics, I think, or what I think it was intended. I didn't really find there to be like a lot of things to do. It was mostly like sport related, and I'm not one of those kinds of people. But if I'm gonna look at it away from my opinions on some of the things, but if I look at away from some of my opinions, it does get a little hard to control at areas where where the Lego man will be on its knees, and it'll just be like scraping across the ground, and it just won't really be moving really fast. So that might be a bit of a thing, but still a pretty okay-ish game. Demon in Pink. This is Demon in Pink. It's not a bad game. It's an okay horror game for Game Builder Garage. It plays out pretty well, and yeah, it does actually do pretty good for a Game Builder Garage game like it is. It does deal with the Kirby fan base, and it's pretty good for something that's supposed to be a Kirby spin-off and actually paints a new light to Kirby. But I'm gonna have to keep it in A tier because it's pretty good, but it's like a little odd. So yeah. And so the next game is Egg and Spoon Racing. Now, this game was kind of produced as kind of like an Easter special this year, actually. If I remember correctly, I actually hosted this on the 8th episode of this series. It's very simple. It's a very simple little mini game. There was a lot of effort put into the assets and graphics of the game, and that's what I really like about it. But yeah, it's got a pretty cool concept. Kind of uses the motion controls of the Switch real well, and it's a pretty good challenge. But yeah, other than that, it does offer like a few difficulty modes, so I might have to get that in S tier. Now this is Empty City, if I remember right. And now this does have a story, and it's a pretty good story. And yeah, it's not bad. It plays out pretty well, and yeah, it's got a good story. It does leave a lot of things for you to interpret and stuff. And even though I kind of gave it a slightly more meh review on the actual episode I featured it in, I'm gonna have to give this like a solid A tier, because I mean, there's not too many issues with it. I mean, the last part of the game is a little off, I'd say, with the graphics, but otherwise the story is just beautiful, and it plays out pretty beautifully. And our next game is Evil X Vile. Now, this is a game that I featured kind of recently. I think it was like episode 7 or 8. It's a pretty good game, and there was a lot of effort put into this. I think this is an easy S tier, and this is Evil X Vile Survive, a spin-off of Evil X Vile that I featured in the episode before it. Now, that is also pretty good. It's not as deep with the story, but it was kind of created as a spin-off and a bit of a kind of as a break for the developer to basically get to work on Evil X Vile 2, which I don't know if it's out yet, but if it is, I'll probably feature on my next review. So our next game is, I believe it's called The Factory, and it's a horror game, kind of like the others, but it's kind of a short little horror experience, but I quite liked it. I think it's another instant easy S tier. And we're also moving into the other parts of the S tier, like this. This is Find the Easter Eggies. But yeah, it's pretty good. So, I mean, it goes right on S tier. So, anyways, the next game is Flappy Bird. Now, this is kind of a good little recreation of Flappy Bird, but it's kind of a little bare bones and still kind of uses the primitive graphics. I think this one kind of came out more closer to the release date of Game Builder Garage, which would kind of explain it. But yeah, it's pretty average. It's pretty good, but you know, for Flappy Bird clones, you know, pretty average. It's about as good as you get, I think. And yeah, now this next one is Get Your Game and Play It 3, I believe. Now I originally reviewed this like a while back, so I think I might put it right next to Flappy Bird in this one. It's pretty okayish. I quite liked it, but it's a bit of a short experience. Controls are pretty good. It does have a bunch of relatability in a lot of areas, but honestly, it's pretty okayish, and it's one of those really simple short games. So yeah. Now this next one, I remember right, is called House, and it's kind of like a puzzle horror game kind of thing. It plays out pretty well. I quite liked it when I played it. Unfortunately, S tier is getting a little too full, so yeah, it was a little hard to beat. So I'm gonna probably put it in A tier, but it's like respectably hard to beat, like because it's a puzzle game. You kind of want to have the puzzles like be hard enough, but not too complex. Yeah. Now this next game is called Human Runner. Now this game wasn't the greatest, but it could be, but it could have a few, but it could be like it's a little weird, but the assets are actually pretty okayish here for what it is, but it's a little bit of a basic platformer, so yeah, I think it's gonna stay there. This next game is a recreation of Kick the Buddy. I don't remember exactly when I featured it, but I know it was one of my more recent episodes. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this one an F tier because there's not much to really do. It's got really nothing to really go on about in the game. I mean, I think it's like you press a button, and I mean, there was even an instruction to wait 20 seconds and press the button. There's just not much. Now this next one is Kirby Goes to Mr. Beast Burger. I'm gonna have to put that also in A tier because I mean it was pretty good, but it's kind of basic. There were a few glitches that I had noticed where, but yeah, this game was pretty okayish, but it would kind of have a problem where if you flew too high as Kirby, it would become you'd get on top of the roof of the Mr. Beast Burger, so you couldn't even enter it. So yeah, so there were a few glitches there, but I mean honestly, again, it's one of those Game Builder Garage things that kind of tries to make a 3D game into a 2D game and all that. And I don't think the developers were intending for you to really use the fly mechanic in there because, yeah, it was mostly just a peaceful walk kind of thing. The next game is Lethal Strawberry Jamland. Unfortunately, I'm going to probably have to put this in D tier, maybe even C tier, because, I mean, it's got a pretty original concept behind it, but yeah. This next, but yeah, it does kind of need it. So this next game, if I remember right, is called Little Adventure. I originally featured this as a short. I'm probably going to put this in like B tier, I guess, because, I mean, it does have a bit of a story. There's a diverse cast of characters, but the graphics are a little basic, I guess. I don't know really what I'm going to kind of describe it as, but it's like, but otherwise it's pretty okayish. There's a bit of challenge to it, but but it is not really a little adventure. It actually does take quite some time to actually beat it, because, yeah, I'm not going to reveal too much, but yeah. Now, Little Puzzle Island, I remember covering this. Yeah, this was actually pretty good. I'm probably going to A tier that as well. Mandelbrot Zoom. Now, although there's not much you can really do, it does actually mess with the hardware of that Game Builder Garage supports immediately. It's pretty good. I remember when I first played it, I used it mostly as background footage and kind of as the stock footage that I normally open and close my videos with. So yeah, it was pretty good. In fact, there's a bit of a pattern you're probably going to realize. This game was made by Scrubs, who's actually kind of like me, a professional game developer who actually does make actual games, and sometimes they go into Game Builder Garage and create things and stuff. So I think it's going to be a bit of a pattern that their games are going to be an auto S tier. I apologize to everyone else who kind of deserved S tier anyways. I'm gonna also kind of make some space in S tier, because we're putting a lot of things in S tier here. And yeah, and now we have Mario, the Paper Mario 3D E3, 3DS E3 demo. It's a very short little demo. So yeah, there's not much really there to do really, but otherwise, aesthetically, it's pretty good. I might move that to A tier, honestly. It plays out pretty well, and yeah. Alright, so the next game we've got Mario Odyssey. Now, I remember covering this on the first one, and it's an instant F tier for me. If you didn't realize, it's a troll, because, I mean, it was all in one Game Builder Garage project file, so, you know, it's literally a troll at this point, because you press the A button, you get trolled, nothing else. So, I put it in the F tier. Simple as that. Alright, so the next game is called Super. I think it's a recreation of with Wario and Waluigi, the Pen Pals thing from Mario Party 3DS as well, from the 3DS. But yeah, it's also an instant S tier, because it's actually pretty good. So yeah, the art style of this game is actually pretty good. It plays real nice. The controls, they're pretty okay. I've definitely played worse. Honestly, it is an instant S tier, because it literally is good it's literally the best. Now, this next game is, I think, an attempt at making a Mario kind of game. It's not really the greatest. Some of the platforming's a little broken from when I reviewed this. So yeah, I think it's called Super Mario Universe. I'll pop up the name if I get it right. Yeah, it's Mario Universe. Alright, so this next one is a replica of Minecraft. This was an attempt at getting Minecraft in GBG, which is kind of a hard feat to do. It doesn't have digging, and you can only really use 2 blocks. I'm a little undecided on this one. I might border this A and B. I'm thinking of going with B, because B does not have much in it. Because although it does control well, it's got a few things where it's like, sometimes the building mechanism's a little off. But, it doesn't have all the things of Minecraft, but I wasn't expecting that for Game Builder Garage, but yeah, it's pretty good, but, now, Minimal is a platformer game, and it's another instant S tier because, yeah, I mean, it's like actually pretty good platforming. The platforming's a little off in some areas, but yeah, it's got a pretty good art style. It really messes with the 2D things in Game Builder Garage, which is kind of one of those easier said than done kind of things. So I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, I'm gonna go and resize some of these S tier things so we could actually put a little bit more into it, and let's continue on. Right, so I've kind of moved the tier list to kind of size things down here and there just so we have a little bit of more room to put more things in S tier, because clearly we've got a lot of really good games, and I guess I've been really good at finding some really great stuff. And this next game is literally no exception. In fact, the next two games are practically no exception, and I think we're never going to give S tier a break ever. And this next one that I just put down in S tier is Super Monkey Ball Game Builder Garage. Now, this was a pretty good game. I liked the assets of it. I like how the art was done. In fact, the developer of it actually commented on the video I featured it on, kind of explaining on where some of the assets came from and how it was done, and it's overall pretty cool. And so this next game is Moonlight Madness. Now I am going to probably put it in S tier, but unfortunately it had a bit of an issue, if I remember right, where there was like one objective that you really couldn't really play. But otherwise, it's a pretty good game because it's actually fully in 2D, which is like, as I've shown in my previous videos that I've done about Game Builder Garage, which is a pretty hard thing to do if you come to think of it. So overall, pretty good. Alright, so the next game is another game from Verdict, which is that I featured, which is another Mario Party recreation. This one being some memory game one. I forget the name of it, but it's basically the one where you had to match the musical instruments. It's from Mario Party 4. But yeah, it's an instant S tier because, much like a lot of their other games, it's really good with the art and the visuals, and basically being faithful to the source material, in my opinion. So I'm pretty happy with that. And so our next game is Ned's Home. I'm gonna C tier this one, mostly because although it does have a pretty good story, there's a lot of graphic things that are a little off and out of place. Like it's kind of got the basic note on and all that, kind of just showing themselves. But it's otherwise a pretty good game. But it's very collectathon heavy. There's a lot of platforming. And yeah, it's a little weird, but I think it's pretty good for C tier. Same goes for its sequel, Ned's Mansion. That kind of follows on the Luigi's Mansion kind of principle, which isn't really bad, I'd say. I do quite like how they implemented the mechanic of the vacuum, which isn't that bad, but it's still got a similar thing going down in the world and all that. So yeah, I think it's gonna have to stay as a C tier, unfortunately. Yeah. Now this next one is called Nintendogs Plus Garage. Now I'm probably gonna have to shove that into S tier like I did all of these things. This has been with GBG since GBG started. It's actually pretty legendary. It makes use of the hand thing. There's a few glitches that might bring it down to A tier. Namely the fact that the dog kind of breaks itself, but it's pretty understandable considering how they even got the dog in on it. I do like the aesthetic with the traditional Japanese tatami mats and room kind of system. Pretty okayish. Unfortunately, S tier no longer has room in it. but yeah, but yeah, it's pretty much high A tier, looking towards S tier. Now this next game is Orange Juice. I found it to be pretty okayish. I'm gonna say it's around, I'm gonna say B or C tier. I'm gonna put it in B tier for now. Yeah, it's simple, but it's kind of got a lot of platforming. Now this next game is Out of Time 2. I don't really know how to feel about this one. I'm thinking B tier again, because this game mostly features, it's pretty okayish. Yeah. Now our next game is Little Photo Island, which isn't bad either. But yeah, it's pretty much a contender for S tier, but unfortunately there's a few areas where it's a little dodgy, but yeah, it's very high A tier, kind of like Nintendo's Garage. Alright, so I kind of reorganized the S tier a little bit more, because yeah, we've got another contender for S tier being added back again, because yeah, we've got another bit of, because yeah, this is a good contender for S tier, and honestly, yeah, this game, Pokemon Sleep, it was created as an April Fool's joke. It's very simple. I mean, you get what you ask for. You know, you go to sleep, you have to literally wait 8 hours exact, then you press A, which will do nothing, practically beats the game. So yeah, things were very well implemented in there, so yeah. Alright, so our next game is Rat, which is pretty okay in my opinion. I'm gonna say that it's kind of like at least an A tier, either a high A tier or maybe a B tier if I had to take a guess. I'm gonna put it as like a high B tier, because I think the A tier is also kind of having room issues as well. Let me just reorganize that a little, and we'll let that in. Alright, here we go. Alright, so yeah, this gets to A tier, definitely. The next one, Rat Race. Now, this is also a pretty good game, and yeah, it's pretty similar to the Monkey Ball one. I quite liked it. It's got very nice minimalist graphics, and it was pretty good. Alright, so the next one is the Rayman game, which is like 12 games in, that make it up. It's pretty good. I'm pretty faithful to the original. I'm probably going to have to put that as like an A tier, so it's kind of like there. Alright, the next one is Roblox. Now this is a pretty good replica. It plays pretty well. I am, like I said in the video where I talked about it, it's pretty much like the original. It's a little slower moving than old Roblox. In fact, I am one of the old Roblox players, so I kind of find it to be a good thing to go back to. But it's a little slow for Game Builder Garage, and yeah, it's got and the obby's a little off there, here and there, but pretty good. Give that a B tier. Again, don't have much room for everything now. Alright, so another one is Adventures of Robot Boy, Fluffball Escape. I'm going to keep that as a C tier. Pretty good platforming. It's pretty hard platforming, though. So, yeah. Next one, Robot Factory. I'm thinking of putting it in B tier. It's got very simple graphics. It's got nice platforming. And, yeah. This next one is... I'm kind of contemplating on putting it on the, I'm going to say, border of D and F tier. I'm probably going to give it D tier just to be kind of respectful. Actually, it's probably going to get F tier because this was like the lowest rated game that I gave it. It's a replica of Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64, or at least that's what it's supposed to be. The features of the castle are kind of there, but it's not really a complete, faithful, honest recreation. So I'm gonna have to put that on F tier, unfortunately. And yeah, all right. Our next game was also a bit of was one from a comment that I had gotten like when I first started out this stuff, and that is Super Monty Adventure. I quite like this game. It's a little too basic for S tier, but it's definitely a contender for the higher bits of A tier. So yeah, I'm going to have to give that a good. I'm going to have to give it a place on A tier. I liked what the developer did by trying to incite a bit of a community into the game, which is actually a pretty cool thing. If I remember right, the developer actually had a thing where if you beat the game and it's in X amount of time, using a little timer, the little time mode, you could actually, I think there was like a wall of fame in the game kind of thing. So I quite like that game. So I'm gonna have to give that a high A. I would give it an S, but there's a few things up with it. Alright, so this next one is a 3D version of Sonic. For Game Builder Garage, I will say there was a few things that did kind of do some things that weren't really something that Game Builder Garage actually does or has support for. So, but yeah, unfortunately there's a few weird objects and items in the game, like the Sonic Ball, the Santa Ball thing. I couldn't really get a grasp of what that did exactly, except for just generate more little Santa Ball things and basically kind of be, I'd say, kind of generally annoying. So yeah. And this next one is Super Garage Maker, which is supposed to be a knockoff of Mario Maker, and it's not a bad one. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put that in a B tier. It's pretty good, but there's a few primitive areas in the graphics. It's relatively limited, but also kind of the argument that I've been going with a lot of the others. Yeah, it's mostly, I mean, I'm literally filling up all of the other tiers, so, I think it's a good B tier contender. And yeah, this next one is Super Hot Garage. Now, this is a good recreation of Super Hot, which has a pretty cool little, thing, cool little mechanic to it, where time only moves if you do, and pretty good. I liked how the game was executed when I originally reviewed it, and I still quite do. So yeah, I'm gonna have to put that like really high A tier. There's a few, I think this is one of the few things where having the basic person mode on actually kind of works out in the game's favor, and art style, because I mean, it's kind of no different from the low-poly humanoid figures of the original Super Hot. So I think that's going to be a solid A tier. Alright, so next one is Super Waluigi. I'm going to have to put this in a B tier. There was some effort. There's a lot of platforming. But there's a few areas that are a little odd. I think there were a few areas where the platforming was okay-ish at best. So yeah, it's a pretty original idea, giving Waluigi his own game, which is something Nintendo has never really done. Probably because Waluigi wasn't really created to be a main character or a big old doppelganger like that. And yeah. And now this next one is Switch Dock Simulator. Now, I kind of liked this, but unfortunately it's one of those rage games, and yeah, it's very hard, bordering impossible in some areas. I do have an idea of a strat that would probably work in our favor here, but yeah, it just its use of motion controls and just all of those things alone is kind of a bit of a detractor for it. So yeah, and look at this, we got another Scrubs game, which is their game of Tetris. Now, I'm gonna have to put this in S tier, and yeah, it's another big S tier edition, because yeah, it's pretty good, it's pretty original, it plays out pretty nice. In fact, I might put it right next to, nah, I'm gonna just put it where it is. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those that's gonna end up in S tier, like a lot of these games. And yeah, it was actually pretty good. It messed around with 2D very well. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give that a good solid S tier. It's a great demo for any programming language, honestly. I mean, if you don't have Tetris on if you can't get Tetris on your programming language with any graphics system, then don't even bother trying to make games with it, you know? So yeah, so the next one is Tilt and Roll Kirby, which is, if I remember right, some mini game from the newest Kirby game, and this was also an anniversary celebration in and of itself. And yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, it was a little towards the end though. That section that towards the end, it's a little hard to beat. So I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. You know, you can't really. I've never really been able to beat it. I've come very close on both difficulties, but I've never really been able to truly win it. I think I might have done it once on the easy difficulty, but on the hard difficulty, I always died by falling on the edge towards the end of the game, which is a little bit tricky, but it's okay. All right, so our next game is Toad's Quest for Cheerios, which I'm gonna probably have to put that as like a very high C. I was originally gonna go for at least an A, a B, A, or an S, but unfortunately those have gotten a little too full recently. So yeah, unfortunately, C. You know, it's very simple. There's a lot of platforming involved. I might have to. I'm gonna reorganize B tier. All right, so there we go. Toad's Quest for Cheerios. It's B tier. You know, compared to other games that I've seen out of Game Builder Garage, you know, there's a few better ones. But otherwise, if there weren't so many in S tier or A tier, I'd definitely put it there. But yeah. But anyways, so on to the next game, which, if I remember right, yeah, okay, it's Ultimate Playground. I'm gonna have to put that in C because, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's kind of, it's pretty okayish. The platforming's a little hard. It's kind of basic graphics, pretty much generic Game Boy Garage playground game at this point. So, yeah, so I'm gonna have to put it with the other playground game, if I believe. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So the next one is VVVVVV, which is kind of a legendary little game. I'm not gonna say legendary, but it's a pretty cool little indie game. This is a good replica of that. I'm gonna probably have to S tier that as well. I'm thinking of S tiering it because, you know, because it actually does pretty good at replicating or the original version of VVVVVV, even though I have never played that one. But it does really good with 2D and Game Builder Garage, and honestly, it's pretty good. And our next game is a game with Wario. It's the Wario Galaxy game, which also isn't bad. But I'm gonna have to B tier it because, yeah, there's a lot of, because there's a few things there that could probably be there's a few things that are pretty good, but it's kind of like hard to kind of steer Wario a bit, and yeah. And as for our next game, which is another replica of a Paper Mario style game, I'm going to also have to squish the A tier even further because I think it deserves to also be an A tier. I would put it in S tier, but again, S tier is getting a little too full now. Yeah, we're also kind of, it's pretty good, but it's kind of got, it kind of needs to, it's kind of got a little bit of basic background kind of stuff. So yeah, and that's pretty good. And now we're on to the Wii TV menus. We're on to the Wii menus, which we've got 2 of them. Now this one, I'm probably gonna have to put it in C tier, even though it's pretty good for being a very good little 2D game and actually having the modularity to actually be there. I might actually bump it up to B tier if we keep, because yeah, it's pretty good enough for B tier. So yeah, I think it's gonna go there. The developer of this game actually did actually pay a lot of attention to details, because you know, if you click on the games, you actually get the actual channel logo things on them. Too bad Game Builder Garage does system reserving on the plus and minus buttons of the controller, because that would be really cool to get the authentic Wii experience, because I think that's how you'd move between channel to channel if you just clicked on one and from the menu and other things. And yeah. And for our final game, it's the Wii U TV menu, which is which is kind of going to get into C tier, because it kind of loses the core concept of the original Wii version. You can't really modularize it. You can't just copy it and put your own Game Builder Garage games there and have kind of like a launcher or something like that. It's mostly kind of just, you do a thing and it just has the background. It's mostly just this generic Wiimote mouse cursory thing on there. And yeah, but with that being said, we're actually done with the tier list. There's a lot of things that kind of could do with a bit of a shifting in places there, here and there, but yeah. What are your thoughts on this kind of stuff? Do you agree with the kind of picks that I've made? I apologize for making this quite of a long video, and yeah, it's quite a long video, but yeah, that's literally every game I have covered since Game Builder Garage first started. Alright, so that's going to do it for today's video. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. This channel recently hit 75 subscribers, so thank you to everyone who's been watching the channel for the past while. So yeah, wouldn't be here without all that, with all these subscribers and stuff. New subscriber goal 100, I guess. But yeah, so that's my tier list for all the Game Builder Garage review games that I've reviewed. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video in the current series on this channel, which is the review of, is my attempt at trying to recreate Visualized, a very 2D infinite runner game, and putting it into Visualized. Mostly because I actually had a thing to do with the development of the game. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. And bye.